All right, guys, in this assignment, we're going to learn how to make a movie poster. Let's go ahead and take a look at the assignment. We have some videos about how to make posters that I want you to watch. Then we have a video on how to design a movie poster. Now, this is actually a short 3-minute video that is actually instructions on how to use this movie poster template. Movies have lots of text. And so if we take a look at this example here, this is a template. You can edit all of this information. Now, to be clear, this is a text template. The image is just there as a placeholder. So we have our names up top. These are going to be our 4 main actors. Watch the video about why the names don't line up, and that'll give you a whole lot of information about these 4 names at the top. We're going to have a tagline, which is sort of like it's like a short saying that kind of follows up your movie title. I have a link to a bunch of great ones in the assignment. We also have awards. So if your movie has been to film festivals and won an award, that's where you would include that here. We have the producer's name. That could be your name. And then we have the movie title. Then we have our 3 main writer, screenplay, and director. And then we have a bunch of additional information like costume designers, music composers, etc. We also have a coming soon, which, if it's coming out in the summer or at Christmas or whenever, you could make that right there. Then you notice it says movietitle.com. We'll delete that part. But the point is just simply that all of this formatting that goes into making this look like a movie poster is not something that I necessarily need you to spend hours doing. So instead, you have a template. And you might think, well, isn't that cheating? And the answer is absolutely not. Anytime I can use something that is pre-built to speed up my workflow, I'm okay with it as long as we modify it. If you left it just like this, then you haven't done anything. Okay? As long as you do something, give me a different font for the title, move some things around, get a couple things out of here, add some colors, do something to make it uniquely yours. Okay? And as long as we do that, using a template is perfectly acceptable. You'll see that there's actually multiple templates available. We have one PSD, but in that PSD, you will find light examples, dark examples. So again, if your text, if your image is mostly light, then you might want to use black. But if your image is like what we're about to build, a space scene, then we're going to need to use white because the color of space is black, and it would make it very difficult to read our titles. So again, go through these, take a look at all of these, get familiar with what's here. There's the white on black, and then I'm going to show you how to use it all. So this is the template. Again, you will only need to download the PSD, but and you'll also need to download the fonts. This template comes with 2 custom fonts. Okay? Basically what that means is you probably don't have these on your computer. So let me go ahead right now and show you how to install these. It's super easy. There's nothing to be worried about here. So Tall, Dark, and Handsome and Montserrat are the 2 fonts used in that template. In order for Photoshop to not replace those with other fonts, you need to make sure you have them installed. Because if you open up those PSDs and Photoshop doesn't have those fonts installed, it will show you a little exclamation point warning on the layer, and it'll ask if you want to replace them. And sometimes you don't even really notice, and it goes in and it switches them out with something like Helvetica or Arial. And again, you open up the PSD and you can't figure out why your fonts don't match the template. Well, the answer is you didn't install the fonts. And on top of that, I'm going to show you how you can download custom fonts. So if you want to use a title that isn't in Tall, Dark, and Handsome or Montserrat, I'll show you how you can access tens of thousands of free fonts to make your work stand out. So let me show you how this works. In this case, these are 2 fonts in Google Drive. All you have to do is double click on them. And then right here, where it says TTF, That is the type of file that fonts use. It's called a true typeface or true type font. There's TTF and OTF. I think O is official type font. So if you see a TTF or an OTF file, those are the font files. And all you have to do is download them. So select it, copy file name. No, just go over here and just hit the download button. And let's see here, there we go. And now if I come over to my downloads, okay, so this is my downloads folder, and you will see Tall, Dark, and Handsome right there. So that shows you there is the license and the TTF file. All I have to do to install this is double click on it. Now I'm on a Mac, and unfortunately I don't know how to do this on a PC because I don't own a PC. If you're on a PC, you might just quickly check out a YouTube video that might help you, or try this technique and see if it works. So anyways, right now it says replace because I've already installed this. But all I would have to do is, if I hadn't already installed it, I would just click right here where it would say install, and that's it. Okay, so it's no big deal. I'm actually going to install a font in a second, so I'll show you the entire process. So do that for both of the fonts so that when you open up the template, you'll have those fonts there. Let's see if I come over here. Let's check out Montserrat. I don't know if, look at now, Montserrat has lots of different weights. You probably should install all of these. You don't have to, but notice that when we look at the template, I mean, you kind of do have to. And the reason I say that again is just because we have lots of different weights in this template, as I showed you from looking at the samples. And so if you install only the bold and not the light, then you're gonna, you can see this is a mixture of different sizes and weights down here. It's going to be in your best interest to install all of those. So again, you just click on it. Actually, you know what? In this case, I would just select the whole folder, hit download, give that a second, and then come over to my downloads folder here. Come over, just hit Command N on my desktop. Go to downloads, and there's Montserrat. Now again, I don't know if I already have this installed. We'll find out. So if I go to Black OTF, double click on it and click install. Done. Bold OTF, click on it. Install. Done. So again, it's not going to take you more than a minute or two to install all these fonts. Just click on them, choose install, and then you know that when you go to use that template, all of the text in that template will look the way it should, and Photoshop won't be busy replacing any of your fonts, because sometimes you don't always notice when that happens. Okay, so there is Montserrat completely installed in under a minute. Okay. But I did want to show you how you could get your own fonts, because maybe you want to do a cool title for your movie and you want it to be something other than Montserrat. Well, if you go to a site called DaFont, DaFont, this is where you will find endless amounts of quality fonts. So as you can see right on this first page here, we have a bunch of fonts, but if you look up here, you will see there are tons and tons of other categories. There's even cool things like dingbats, which are like little vector art pieces, right? You probably are familiar with dingbats, but you probably think they're useless. Well, these ones are not, because these ones you could scale up and actually use in your work. So there's tons of those. If we come over to cartoon and just look at the first one, you see there's lots of familiar fonts. Just about every movie and product and anything popular, you can probably find the font for it in here, even Mickey Mouse. So if you see something on DaFont and you say, oh, I want the Super Mario font, all you have to do is, if you click on it, it'll take you to that font page. And the only reason you really need to do this is just to see what's available. This shows you that it looks like we've got pretty much all uppercase letters, right? Notice how there's the uppercase keys and we get uppercase letters, but also with the lowercase keys, we also have uppercase letters. So there's no lowercase letters for this font. That's important to know if you're planning on using this for something where you need lowercase letters. Along with that, there might not be full punctuation. You might be missing some things. I've definitely found a few fonts that don't have things like apostrophes, and you have to sort of repurpose a comma. So that is what the font has, and over here you can just click download, and there you go. Now that's going to pop into my downloads folder just like the last one did. Oh, there it is, Super Mario TTF. So again, double click on it. It's going to open up this window on a Mac. Click install, and you are done. Now in DaFont, you don't have to even go onto this page because you can just click download right here. But again, if you don't look, you might not realize that there's no lowercase letters. Now, there's different sort of laws and legalities on each of these. Some say 100% free. Really, the bottom line with these is if you're using them for anything that's paid, you should probably contact the person who made the font. And that's really easy to do. They always have some sort of contact on here and licensing information. Sometimes these are free for one free use. Here you go. Standard commercial use, $25. Okay. So if you're getting paid, $500 to do a logo for a movie and you need to use this, you got to pay for it or else they could come back at you. But for us, for educational purposes, this stuff's all free. So again, easy to use. All you have to do is click download, and then when you find the downloaded file in your downloads folder, open it up, click on it, and choose install. I would recommend just downloading like 20 or 30 of them. The general fonts that you get in Adobe are pretty boring, and you'd be amazed at how much having some fun fonts to work with can make your work look instantly better and more unique. Okay, so there is fonts. You'll create a movie poster for a motion picture that you will invent. We are not making the Fast and Furious number 12 here. We're not making Star Wars. We're not making anything that you've seen before, okay? This is going to be brand new. The cover will be a composite montage style photo illustration, combining at least 3 separate photos into the final composition. For your pre-production, now this is the first assignment where we will have written pre-production, so make sure to add time for that. You're going to begin by choosing a genre and a title for your movie. Is it a thriller, a drama, film noir, documentary, etc.? You can use a current movie as a model, but do not use any imagery or titles from the film. For example, I had a student do kind of his own version of Point Break, which was a movie from the 90s. Your poster or cover must be completely invented and original. So again, you can borrow ideas, but do not try to make a sequel to a movie that you've already seen. So here's all the stuff you're going to learn. We'll talk about that when we get into making the poster. Materials and resources. So Pexels is a great spot. Again, click on that. And let's say you want to make a movie about Vikings. Type in Vikings and see what comes up. And maybe you find something here that works for you, and maybe you don't. Maybe you find a little something where you could just, select out this guy from this background and use him as your cover art. But again, I don't want to see, it's not a Viking movie if you can see that he's at a axe throwing venue. So again, think about just using portions of these photos. Actually, look like you got some pretty decent stuff to work with here. But if you don't find anything that you like here, you can always check out additional stock photo sites right here. And that's going to take you to a page full of stock photo sites. These are all the free ones up top here. These are ones down here where you would have to license and pay for your images. These are the ones I use when I'm doing professional work. These are the ones I use when I am messing around or not sure if I have a budget. Okay, so additional stock photos right there. Down below that, you're going to see examples of movie posters. That's definitely a good idea to get in here and look at some examples. This site is called IMPA Awards. It's the awards for best posters. So, come in here, check out some posters, go through and look at them, and hopefully get some ideas. Then we get down to instructions. So this is the document that you are going to use, and this is the document size I want you to use. So your image will be 6 by 9 at 200 pixels per inch, CMYK color mode. All right, so as I mentioned, you're going to begin by researching various genres, movie posters, which incorporate collaged or composite imagery in the layout. You're definitely going to want to look at the IMP Awards. You can also check out movieposters.com, Wikipedia, or IMDb for inspiration. Now, here is the pre-production that is required for you guys to get your full credit on this. So you need to outline your ideas, and you need to start with a plot summary. So plan out the basic parts of your film before starting your design. You will submit a 1-paragraph pitch that includes the genre, the title, the tagline, the rating, the opening date, characters, and 3 sketches that you will draw. Okay? So if that sounds like a lot, don't get overwhelmed. It's not that big of a deal. Let me show you what it looks like. Let's go over to the examples I have for you guys, which I have not yet linked to this assignment, but will before it goes live. So in this movie poster examples, I have some sketches that I did for my movie. And as you can see, this is not fine art. These are just simply, stick figure sketches or slightly better. The reason is I wanted to see what it looks like with just a big skull in a space helmet. Didn't feel it. I wanted to see what it looked like to maybe have the school, because this is about a high school that gets invaded by aliens, with a spaceship landing behind it, and maybe on one side you got 3 floating heads of angry students, and on the other side you've got the alien, and they're facing off, and yeah, I didn't like that one either. And then finally I ended up going with something like this, just an astronaut in space floating around with a rocket and the Earth, and some title work that we'll add in the final. And that's kind of the design I went with. And again, the idea isn't so much that you are a great artist and that you can completely draw it before you make it. The idea is just to get a ballpark look at some different ideas. So you need to turn in 3 sketches. On top of that, if we go back, let's take a quick look at the deck or the pre-production. So here is what I was requiring from you guys, what I am requiring. Plot summary, genre, title, tagline, opening date, rating, and 4 characters with like 3-line descriptions. I'll give you just a quick, I won't read all this, but the plot summary was, it was a school spirit celebration day in a sleepy farm town when a large spaceship landed in a field next to the school. When the aliens emerged from the ship, it became clear that the students will have to defend their school and maybe even their planet. The athletes try in vain to fight off the aliens, but it's clear that their strength alone won't be enough. With the imminent threat of an alien invasion, students from all walks of life, cliques, and social strata will have to come together to pool their knowledge and skills to fight off the attackers. Will they be successful? The fate of the planet lies in their hands. Okay, that is my plot summary, right? It's one of those movies about unity, about, figuring out that everybody's got talents, that if we all work together, we can solve any problem. So that's my plot summary, genre, action, coming of age, title, Battlefield Bonsall, tagline, on this day, everything is not Bonsall good. Yeah, I teach at Bonsall High School, and that literally is their tagline, Bonsall good. Opening date, rating, characters, and read through these characters, get familiar. I'm giving each of them a personality. As a kid, I grew up watching shows like The A-Team, where everybody kind of had a special skill, or Red Dawn, or I liked this poster idea here. These are 3 different images that I thought might work well for my poster. I didn't end up going with specifically any of them, but they are all movies that are similar to what I'm doing. I probably could have put Independence Day on there too. So that is your pre-production. Make sure to complete all of that because it's very important. Now, we want to take a quick look at the poster. I'll show you the final product, and then I'm going to walk you through the process of building it. And while you might feel good about your compositing skills, I want to definitely show you guys how to get the most out of the template. So make sure to watch this tutorial. So here you go, Battlefield Bonzal. Next thing we'll do is we'll hop into Photoshop and go through just the steps on how I put that together. Whatever you do, do not copy my poster. I want this to be unique to you and your style and your sense of aesthetics. Idea outline. Everything else in here you can pretty much read yourself. That is mainly the gist of the pre-production. Now, for finding potential imagery for your design, you can go to those stock sites. And basically what I want you to do is have at least 3 images composited together. I want you to use layer masks. I want you to use blend modes. I wouldn't even mind seeing a gradient mask. I'll show you what that is if you're not sure. Obviously, we have filters and effects, adjustment layers, and additional type and layer styles, and any other techniques that you feel would be appropriate. Okay, I want to see examples of all of these. While these tools and techniques are required, you should be careful to ensure that they're not haphazardly applied, but function to serve the concept and reveal the themes of your movie. So your grade will be graded on your ability to use selection tools, your ability to blend layers, your creativity, your ability to use the text template, your ability to make sure you hit all the image requirements, and that is it. So again, I hope at the very least you guys have fun doing this. I really want this to be you guys showing your style, your ideas, your interests. This isn't like the ad we did where you kind of have this template you're locked into. And then finally, you'll turn this in through Canvas, save your art as a JPEG, save your written stuff as a PDF. Those are the only 2 files this will accept. And you can save your sketches as a JPEG or a PDF, either one. All right, that's it for the assignment. Let's go ahead and hop in to Photoshop. All right, so I went and did some searching and I found this image, and this image. Those are the 3 that I'm going to start with. I might add some more. So let's go ahead and set up our template. And before we even do that, let's go ahead and download the PSD from Google, because we want to definitely compare the sizes of those 2 elements. So let's go ahead and, oops, wrong one. There we go. Let's go ahead and click Movie Poster Template, and then we'll come over here and download the Movie Poster Template. We'll click this little download button in the corner and go ahead and we'll open it up inside of Photoshop so we can see how we can go ahead and combine our template with our work. All right, so there's the template right there. Now, again, we'll come back to this when we're done with our art, but I just want you to see over here we have 2 groups of layers. The first one says black text on white background, as we can see right here, black text, white background. The other one says white text on dark background. If we turn off the eyeball for the top one, you'll see the white text. Okay, so we have 2 groups here. And inside these groups are pretty much all of the elements that make up a movie poster. Things like actors' names right up top there, tagline, award mentions, the production company, the movie title, the story and director and all that stuff, screenplay, directed by, and then the billing block as they call this down here. And let's see if we come here. And now notice I can turn off the photo. And then to modify any of this, all you have to do is come in here and click on the text. And as you can see right there, so special guest, I'm just going to select that with the text tool and type in Scott Taylor. I'll be like Quentin Tarantino and do a cameo in my own movie. Cool. So you can see it's no big deal. We'll come back and mess with this after we've built the poster. So I'm going to go ahead and go create a new document that I can add all of these photos to. Also, we have document sizes we need to follow, so let's go ahead and do that. So first thing, it says pixels, and we need 6 by 9 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to inches. And then over here where it says width, I'm going to type in 6, because that's how many inches, and under height, 9. Make sure the orientation is portrait. Under resolution, I'm going to type in 200. And under color mode, I'm going to change it to CMYK because generally speaking, movie posters are for print. And hit create. Now I've got some margins in here, which I actually like. I probably don't need them since I'm working off of a text template. So if I decide that I don't want to use those margins, I can just go up to View, Guides, Clear Guides. Or I just don't want to see the guides. I don't want to clear them, so I'm going to just click Extras. If I uncheck Extras, that'll take anything extra off. So I've got my space, I've got my rocket ship, and I've got my astronaut. So let's start by bringing in the astronaut. So he's in its own layer, so I'm going to hit Command A to select all. I'm going to hit Command C to copy and go over to my template and whoops, hit the V key so I'm not accidentally putting paintbrush spots on my document. And I'll hit Command V to paste in the space astronaut. Okay. And it's important to see that he's big. If I bring him in, I'm going to shrink him down. So in order to not lose resolution, I'm going to convert this to a smart object. So I'm going to right click, choose, convert to smart object. Cool. Now I can scale this up and scale it down without losing any quality. So if I brought this in and it was this big, right? Now, just to be clear, changing it to a smart object doesn't allow me to enlarge small images. It just means that if I start with a big image and I shrink it down and I stretch it back out, I won't lose any quality. But if I start with an image this big and I want it to be really big on the page, it's going to look bad because I'm going to have to stretch it out, which will cause the image to pixelate. So again, be clear, you need to start with large images. Most of the images you get off the internet are going to be 72 pixels per inch. Since we're working at 200 pixels per inch, that basically means that when you drag them into this document, they're only going to be about a third of the size that you saw them as. So again, make sure you get large images. All right, so we got our astronaut in there. Let's go ahead and grab our spaceship. Again, Command A to select all, Command C to copy, go back to my document, and Command V to paste. If you're on a PC, it's Control. Control A, Control C, Control V. All right, so we've got our astronaut, we've got our spaceship. Now we just need some background. And in this case, I like this space. And Command A to copy, Command A to select all, Command C to copy, come over here, and Command V to paste. Okay, so if we look at our layers, the space is on top. Let's grab that and drag it to the bottom. Let's go ahead and rotate it. So we'll hit Command T for free transform. And then I'll put my mouse just outside the edge. Let's go ahead and go full screen here since we're in Photoshop. There we go. put my mouse just outside the edge and just turn it. Now if I hold shift, it will constrain me to 90 degree or to 25 degree amounts. It's 45 degrees. All right, and now I want to stretch this out a little bit, so I'm going to just enlarge it over there so it covers my image. All right, now let's drag our astronaut up to the top layer. Let's put him towards the top of the frame. Let's grab the spaceship, drag that towards the bottom, and okay. Got some things that luckily for us all kind of match each other, right? The background of this spaceship, background of this, they're all pretty similar. So we have a few different options in how we can composite these together. I could select the astronaut and go grab the object select tool, which is right here. And I could just click and drag out a box, give it a second, and look at that. Selects him right off the bat. So if I wanted to do that to get him out of the space, I could then just hit Command J. That's going to copy him to his own layer, and I can just delete or turn off the eyeball for the original layer. And there we go. Do I want to do that? Sure. It seems like it looks pretty good. I mean, again, I normally would zoom in and really check all these edges, but on first glance, it seems to be working quite nicely. And then we also have the spaceship. Now, for the spaceship, I could do something different. Instead of using the object select tool, I could probably use a blend mode, or I could even add a mask to it and use a soft brush. Let's see where blend modes get us. So if I have the spaceship selected, I go up to where it says normal, and we could try something like lighten or screen, color dodge. We could try linear dodge, lighter color. That kind of gets us there, but we lose a little bit. Overlay, no. Soft light, no. Better. I think I like lighten, or maybe even screen. Let's try screen. Which one's better? I think lighten is better. But I'm still left with these hard edges. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and add a mask to this. And really, again, the only reason I'm using a mask is just to kind of blend these two layers together. You can see there's that noticeable hard edge, but if I click on the mask and I select a brush, a black brush, that's going to allow me to erase using the mask. Make sure it's set to something soft, so it's going to help blend those lines. Now, since this, whatever you call that thing, is pretty close to that edge, I got to be careful on that. But for the rest of this, I can be pretty loose. So the bigger the brush, the softer the edges you'll get. So if I make that brush nice and big, come over here, you can see those hard edges are gone, and now it's blending nicely. Do the same thing over here. Again, just be careful not to eat into the photo that you want to keep. And now I'm just kind of clicking. And look at that. I'd say right there, that puts us in pretty good spot. If we zoom out, I don't see anything noticeable that is telling me that any of this stuff is not as it should be. So, pretty easy to at least get to that point. But again, we used a couple different techniques. Now, I know when I use the template, it's going to not want to play friendly with all this stuff. So there's a couple different things we could do at this point. I could just select this group right here. Command C, copy. I could go over to my document and Command V, paste. Right? And there is everything. Now, obviously it's too big, but you can see that that's combining our artwork with our template is not going to be hard. I could then hit Command T, and I could just scale everything in that template down. The results that I'm looking for right now are that I want to see this text on my rough design so that I can make sure that it looks good. Now notice that the template is not the exact same size as our movie poster. That's not a bad thing. That's going to actually give us a little more flexibility to scoot things down and create a little more space in the middle. Now, again, all I have to do is come down and turn that black layer off, and boom, there we go. Because now I basically have everything I need right in one document. I can modify all of this text because all of the layers are right there. And I can also kind of size it all at once because I can select this folder or this group, hit Command T, and it's going to resize everything. Right? So I could, stretch it out a little bit, really try to get it to fill the screen, maybe move it down or up however I want. But just by doing that, the poster really starts to come together. And now it's time to make it good. Open this PSD, select either the black text on white background, in which case you'll open that up, you'll go through and you'll turn off the snow image and tagline. And I guess you probably turned that white. Nope. Let's see. Snow. So there's that white color right there. Nope, that's just a tagline. I'm just wondering where this white background is coming from. There it is right there. It's in tagline. So there you go. Turn that off and now you can see we've got opacity, right? There's nothing there. So again, all you have to do now, you've turned off the white layer and the photo layer. Shouldn't be too hard to find those in there. And then all you have to do is just click on black text on white background, hit Command C or Control C, and come over to whatever document you're working on and Command V. And there it is. It doesn't make any sense having it on here, but I just threw it on here so you could see that there's that black text. Okay, so we have copied and pasted the template onto our work. Now we've got a little bit more to work with. Again, we can move all this text around, but really I just don't want his face hidden behind somebody's name. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my astronaut layer, hit Shift, make sure I'm actually going to hit the V key first, and then I'm going to hit Shift down to nudge him or her downwards, maybe over to the left just a little bit, because I don't think I'm going to have my tagline in the middle. I think I'll put that over here. Okay, so if this is supposed to be a scary alien and having just a black face covering doesn't really help to push that scariness, I think we need to find an alien skull and throw it in there. And it just so happens that I have an alien skull already picked out. So if I go over to my downloads folder and I take a look here, we can go over to alien skull. I'm just going to drag that right in and drop it in there. There we go. Now again, probably a good idea to select it out here. I could try to use a blend mode to get rid of the white, but he's got a lot of white in his head too, and I would probably end up removing that. So this is one where I'm just going to go ahead and hit return to get the free transform controls turned off. I'm going to come over to the object select tool, and I'm going to go down to the quick select tool, because that allows me to then just come in here and manually select this. And when you use a quick select tool and you're on a white background, it's pretty easy. It does a pretty good job of finding, the difference between what you want and the background. So once I have that selected, I'm going to hit Command J to duplicate it. I'll turn off the original layer. In fact, I'll actually just drag it to the trash. And now I have this layer all on its own. And so hit the V key to get the selection tool, drag it over here, hit Command T, shrink it down a little bit. I don't want to shrink it down too much, but definitely smaller than that. And let's see, I want it like up in the top, so I've got it right kind of where I want it. And again, I'm just using the Command plus and Command minus to zoom in and zoom out. I then use the space bar. It gives me the hand tool temporarily. I can drag my image around and then let go. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's see. I want to squish him down a little bit without losing the width. So I actually want to distort this. So in order to do that, I have to hold down Shift, and now I can kind of squish him a little bit. I like that. All right. And then we put him right about there. That looks pretty good, but I want to see the eyes inside the helmet, so I'm going to shrink him down just a little bit more. And I don't know, that should maybe just a touch more. This time I'll do it a little more evenly. There you go. I like that. All right, so I have this sitting on top of this alien, and I want to composite them together. In this case, I think I'm just going to use a soft brush and erase the part of the skull that is over the helmet. And I think by using a soft brush, you'll get that feathered edge, which will look really good. So I'll select this. I'll add a mask to it. I'll hit the, and again, just by clicking the mask button at the bottom of the Layers tab, I'll hit the B key for the brush tool. I'll use the left bracket key to shrink it down. Make sure that you click on the mask to select it. And I'll just come in here and erase the bottom there. And then I'll come up to the top. Now I can't see the helmet, so I'm going to go to the skull layer, click on it, lower the opacity a little bit. There you go. And then go back to the mask. Make sure you click back on the mask. And then I'll just come in here and, like I said, I'm going a little bit further because I want that kind of shadow on his head. Now let's turn the opacity back up. And that's not too bad. But one thing that's kind of weird is that if you look at kind of the shoulders, and he's kind of looking away and the face is looking right at us. And that just kind of messes everything up for me, right? It feels like he should be looking this way, not this way. And while I can't turn him in 3D space because it's a 2D object, what I could do was use a little perspective. And what I mean by that is we'll select this layer, we'll go up to File, Edit, Transform, and I could either I'll use Perspective. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shrink this side in a little bit, and maybe shrink this side up just a touch. And now it kind of gives the effect that he's looking in that direction. Probably don't want to go too crazy with this. That's probably good right there. His mouth got a little messed up. And also now kind of the areas where I'd masked don't really make as much sense. So I'll just click back on the mask, hit the B key, and this time I'm going to hit X to switch it from black to white as my foreground color. And I'm just going to kind of paint back in some of those pixels that I erased. Why do we use masks? This is why we use masks. There you go. I think that looks pretty good. It'd be cool to get some kind of reflection like the front of the helmet mask, but it is what it is in this case. And that is a pretty big head inside that helmet. Okay, so at this point, we've got not a terrible looking poster. I mean, it's pretty decent. Everything seems to fit pretty well. The question is, do we want to take it a little bit further? Do we want to add in some color? Do we want to add in some artsy weirdness that might, I don't know, might give us something that we didn't even think about? One of the things that I do a lot is I go to a site called Texture Labs. And at Texture Labs, I download free textures. Free textures are awesome because a lot of times you won't even know what they're going to do. So if you go to texturelab.org, you will see lots of free textures that you can download. Things like rusty metal, ink splots, page 2, you've got it's all sorts of stuff. And the one that I downloaded earlier, which I'll pull up right now, some textures. Let's see which one we want to use. Okay, so here's a couple. There's a couple. There's a couple. Ooh, that's a good one right there. I definitely want to use that. I'm going to just drag that in and drop it because that's going to create a cool highlight. And then I think I might use like a grunge texture. Let's see, I need to go back to my downloads folder and got one that is like a grungy gradient. That one right there, black grunge texture. And I'll bring Photoshop back and drag that in. But before we use any of these, let's go ahead and hit return. Then we can drag this one in, hit return, and I'm just going to turn those off for now. One thing that we could use that would be kind of cool would be a gradient, right? Just pick a crazy gradient and slap it over this thing. So let's go to the gradient tool and select it. Let's go up to our gradients and let's just maybe look at some of the options that we already have pre-built. Let's see if anything might look good. It's oranges, maybe some purples for space. Purple's not bad. That one right there looks pretty interesting. Sort of pink and teal. So check this out. I could do a couple things here. I could just drag it across the image and then go up to blend modes and set it to darken or multiply, although those look like they're a little bit harsh. It's kind of frying the image. Maybe overlay or soft light. Overlay looks kind of cool, right? It's just giving it this whole additional element, vivid light. Look at that I hadn't even considered. You can go to difference and get the opposite, or divide. That looks pretty interesting too. Now we're getting some cool green in there, which looks kind of vintage. So again, awesome effects that I hadn't planned. I didn't think about these. I'm just kind of messing around. You go to hue. Ooh, hue looks pretty good. I like that. Saturation, that's kind of cool too. Look what it's doing to the tubes on his jacket. Color's not bad either. It gives some really good color around the face. Versus just none of that. So that's an option. Now in this case, I dragged out the gradient tool across the entire image, but I don't have to. I could grab the lasso tool and I could come and just make some wiggly lines and make some selections and only apply the gradient to those selections. So there you go. Now we have a selection, and if I went into the gradient tool and I set it to maybe something different, like, I don't know, maybe this multicolor gradient. Now if I drag it across, it's only affecting those spots. Now, it doesn't look very good because we've got these hard lines, but again, we could go down to a blend mode, select the gradient, go down to a blend mode like color or soft light. And again, we can still kind of see those hard lines. All right, so this is a problem. Those hard lines are a problem. Let's say we wanted to fix that. We could grab the lasso tool, come down here, create some really ugly, bad selections. But check this out. So I've made a selection. I'm going to go up to where it says select at the top. I'm going to go down to where it says modify. And I can go in and choose feather. Right? That's going to help me get rid of all those ugly hard lines I just made. And I'm going to feather it a lot, like 100 pixels. Click OK. Notice how all those curves just got a lot smoother. And now, if we use the gradient tool over a feathered selection, look at the difference. Okay? Way more ethereal and space feeling, and the colors aren't all that great, but you can always tweak those too. Remember, we've got these lines on here where we can play with the feathering. We can move the colors around, have more or less, maybe just save the red for the bottom and focus on the blue at the top. As you can see, just get in there and play around. Okay, and again, maybe this is too strong, so we select it, we go down to our blend modes and we choose something like darker color. It looks a little weird. Overlay, soft light. Could try divide. That's, again, look at the weird pixelation we're getting. That's no good. Hue, saturation, color, luminosity. I think color looks pretty good. I think color gave us a whole bunch of punch that I wasn't expecting or even looking for, and we'll go ahead and leave the gradients at that. All right, and that leaves us with two other textures we're going to play around with, and then we're going to call it good and move on to text. So I have this, what do they call these? Starbursts. All right. Now what I'm thinking is that this would look cool somewhere underneath the astronaut. Maybe behind his head. Maybe coming out from a foot down here. I don't know. It's just going to be a cool way to pull your eye into the center of the image. Now, notice we do have the black background. This one should be pretty easy to get rid of that black background using a blend mode. So if I select it, I go up to blend modes and we look at something like lighten. Notice that that's doing it, but we still see a hard line. Screen, color dodge, lighter color. All right, lighter color seems to be the one I want there. And again, we can hit Command T, scale this up a little bit, make it bigger, make it weird, put it behind his head to really pull your eye to that side part of the image. Now, I am noticing some weirdness on these edges here. And I don't know if that's from our gradient. Nope, that's just from this. So I'm having some second thoughts about the quality of that blend mode. This one might be better off to probably use the same technique we did for the astronaut. Although luminosity is keeping in the dark parts. Again, we could just set it to whatever we want, add a mask, hit the B key, get a nice big soft brush. Looks like we're set to, and then just come in here and make sure to click on the mask, hit X to switch it from white to black, and just come in here and you could do some of this. I don't know. Is it working? I think it is. And it almost looks like he's got a jetpack propelling him now. But the point is simply that now I can kind of move this around, and I'm pretty happy. There you go. Watch out for that hard edge. Pretty happy with the results. Don't know exactly where I want it. I think coming out from behind him is the call. So we'll just put it right there. Okay, now to our final effect. And definitely a questionable one that I'm not certain that I want to use, but we'll take a look. That was going to be the, where did it go? It was the black sort of radial gradient. I'm going to go ahead and drag it back in because I might have deleted it. All right. So here we see this is really just a texture. And what it's going to do is it's going to give our poster like just a grain, like almost as though it was painted or shot with a film camera. Now, it might be too strong. It's also going to give us a vignette. If you look at it, it's got darker edges and lighter in the center. That, I'm going to hold down Shift. That is a classic vignette. There you go. All right, so again, I'm definitely planning on using this with a blend mode. And maybe I'll put it above the astronaut. We'll see. So if we go to darken, look what it does to the spaceship, right? It pretty much gives us a ton of texture, probably way too much. But I do like the darkness that it's adding. Color burns, kind of interesting, but I would say that's frying some of our pixels. Linear burn, nope. Okay, lighten is interesting. As is screen, but probably not what we want to use. Come down to overlay. Overlay and soft light generally are the two that I use most often. And soft light looks pretty good. Let's try hard light, pin light. It's always worth looking at difference or divide. Those give you pretty weird things. And then we'll go down to just hue. Now hue is interesting because it's desaturating a lot of those colors. It's giving us a pretty solid blue palette. Saturation, same thing. Color, desaturating. Luminosity, that's basically just taking the brightness and the darkness. All right, so maybe if we go to soft light and maybe, let's go ahead and put it all the way on top so it's affecting our astronaut. And again, if we think it's too, it looks pretty good now. We could always lower its opacity, drop it down to 50, and then maybe kind of work our way back a little bit. All right, so that right there, guys, is how I create a movie poster visually. Now let's just take a quick look at the text and we will wrap this up. So we're done with the images and I feel pretty good about that. And again, you could also try to apply something like a color lookup adjustment layer. Throw that way on top, go up to load abstract profile. No, go up to, that's weird. Why is load 3D? Oh, because we're in CMYK. Can't use color LUTs in CMYK. Let's see, what else do we have that might work for us? Could use a photo filter. And the cool thing about a photo filter is it, just like when we did our composite, it just tends to blend everything together. And so with the photo filters, this is a default warming filter, 85. You know, there it is without it, and there it is with it. Just adds a little bit of orange. Now, since this is a space scene, I really should be thinking cool, like a cooling filter. And that adds a little bit of blue. And again, it adds it to everything, and that's why it helps. Do I like it? Maybe. Let's see, we got a couple different versions in here. I don't love it. I think I would like it better if it wasn't hitting the astronaut. So if I dragged it underneath my astronaut, then he kind of pops a little bit more. I do like what it's doing to the background in this shot. Honestly though, I think I kind of liked the warming filter better. I know it's not genre correct, but it felt as though, I don't know, it just gave it a vintagey kind of feel. Warmed up the colors. Definitely did not mind that. I'm going to drag it underneath the gradient. Doesn't really seem to have an effect. Okay. All right. So there we go. Now, like I said, we'll take a quick look at the text and then we'll wrap this up. If I wanted to, notice how this text is all in a group. Well, if we wanted to group all of these elements, we absolutely could, and it's easy to do. If I wanted to group all of the visual elements, I could just select the background, scroll up to the top. Now I'm going to hold Shift down and I'm going to click on the top, and that selects everything in between. And then I could just simply right click and choose New Group, and I could call this Visual Elements. And now, interestingly enough, it did not put that stuff in the group. So I'm going to have to reselect it and just drag it in. I'm going to hold Command to deselect the group, and then with everything selected, I can just click and drag it in, and it should go right into that poster, into that group. But it is not. Oh, you know what it was? There we go. It's because our background is locked. Double click. There we go. Unlock it. Now you can drag it in. There we go. Oops, except I don't want it on top. In fact, I don't really need it, so I can just turn it off. All right, so again, talk about being organized. Now we've got group, our text group and our visual elements, which I'll type in one more time. And there we go. So now that we are done with our visual elements, let's go ahead and open up the template, and I can go ahead and just drag those images to the trash because I don't need them. And all I want are the text elements. So actors' names right off the bat. Before I start even filling them in, I'm going to select the group. I'm going to hit the V key, and I'm going to use the up arrow. I'm going to hold Shift, use the up arrow to get those closer to the top. Now again, leave a margin. Don't squeeze them way up there, right? Leave a margin. And let's go ahead and move everything around since we're doing this. If we go down to the bottom, we see billing block. Let's go ahead and open that up. And right there I see movietitle.com. That's that thing. I don't want that. That is an advertisement for the company that made the template, so let's get rid of that. What else? Coming soon, month and year. Let's select both of those. We'll hit Shift, and then we'll click on the other one, and then we'll hold Shift arrow down, and we'll move that down to space it out a little bit. And we got to kind of just think, what do we want to do here? I feel like getting a little space in there for the rocket would be cool. I probably want more room for the title. So let's see, what else? Go down to billing block, and that's actors' names. Billing block. All right, so I'm going to select this entire group because as you can see, every one of those names is individually written out here. And I actually want the entire billing block group. So I will just select that and arrow it down a little bit. Then I'll hold down Command so I can select multiple layers because I want all three of these. And we'll go Shift, arrow down, and just scoot them down a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and give this movie a title right now. So under movie title, I'm going to open that up, and there's just one line that says movie title. And this is where I'm going to grab my text tool, hit the T key, come in here, select that text, and call this Battlefield Bonsall. All right, so the text goes way off the page, so I'm going to hit return, put this on 2 lines. Now notice it's overlapping. We'll fix that in a second. So now that I have some text on there, I'm going to go over to here where my preferences are, and I'm going to change the font to something called Cyborg something. Cyborg Punk. Yeah, let's go Cyborg Punk. Okay. Now, it's obviously way too big, so let's just click on the T's next to the text button, and let's shrink it down. Get it in the ballpark. Since both these lines are selected, I can go over to my leading, and I can space those out a little bit. And again, grab my move tool, start to move this over a little bit. And I want it to be center justified rather than left justified. So that's going to be over here in my properties. Slide that down. Click on that little guy right there under paragraph. And then slide this back over. Okay. Not bad. All right, I'm overlapping the production name. So right here where it says producer's name, I'll just open that up. And then hold Shift and nudge that up a little bit. Okay, so I don't think I necessarily want my best actor and all that stuff up here. Feels like it's just too much overlapping. I'm just going to turn it off for now. My award mentions. It's feeling pretty good. Now, where it says tagline, I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I can go ahead and double click on the T icon. That'll select it, and then I can type in on this day, I think that's, I forget what the tagline was. It was something like on this day, space, everything is not, space, bonds, dash, all good. On this day, I'm going to put a couple dots after that. All right. And my dash looks pretty lame. Let's see. Is that a dash or was that an underscore? Wow, that dash looks bad. All right, and then we'll drag this over here. That way it's just makes a little more sense, right, than having it like half overlapping him. Plus it's just harder to read with the white on white. So we'll move it over here, take a look at it. Overall, looks all right. Maybe I don't want to capitalize all those letters. All right, that'll have to work for now. Okay, so hopefully you guys get how this works. I want you to go in and fill in all of these, okay? I don't want anything that says, produced by producer. Fill in a name. Make it up. Use your character names. Beyond that, in fact, let's just go through and do that real quick right now. So, actors' names. Open it up, double click, and there we go. Name, surname. Okay, so one of my actors is going to be Pee Wee Herman. Okay, and the other actor, double click, click on the icon. This one's going to be Cheech Marin. And then this one is going to be starring Sam L. Jackson. All right, with special guest Scott Taylor. And, take a look. Does everything look okay? Maybe we need to shift them over. There's kind of an oddly large gap right there. So one thing I could do would be to just select those three. As long as I click on them all at the same time and hit V for the V key, I can then just use the arrows and kind of squeeze them over so we don't have quite such a noticeable gap there. I don't want to throw the margins off, but that gap just felt weird. Or maybe we should just spread them all out a little bit. Maybe they just all need a little more space. So we'll grab Sam and scoot him over. Cheech, we'll kind of get him halfway in between. There you go. Okay, cool. Now on this tagline right here, I feel like everything might be spaced out a little too much. So I'm just going to double click on the T icon and go over to leading and just tighten it up a little bit. And again, maybe come up with a different font, but overall that's probably okay for now. All right, under Battlefield Bonzal, I feel like, I don't know, maybe there's just a little bit too much opacity there. And what I mean by that is I just want something to make it a little bit easier to read. So what I'm thinking with this one, since it's on a black background, I might go down to my layer styles where it says FX and add a drop shadow. Notice how that just puts a little bit of black under there. It makes it kind of pop over some of these lighter areas. I think that's a good idea. Cool, moving on. Click OK up here and come down. And again, story by, double click, change the writer's name, story by whoever you want. Again, any name other than writer is going to be acceptable. So we'll make Bob Dobbs the writer. So you guys, I hope you guys get it at this point. I basically want you to go through and fill all of this information out and space it out so it looks nice. I'm going to go ahead and grab my block now because it feels like it's sitting up pretty high. I'm going to select group 1. Actually, I don't want just group 1. I want the stuff on top too. I want everything but the year. So I think I need group 1 and everything below it. So we'll select group 1. We'll select everything below it, hold down Shift and click. And now we've got all that stuff selected. And again, if I just select the Move tool, which it is currently selected, I can use the Shift down arrow to kind of get that stuff right there. I think that looks good. And then I'll just move down the 3 above it a little bit as well. So I'm going to hold Command and click on Story by, Screenplay by, Directed by. Use the arrow key just to nudge them down a bit. Gives me a little bit of room with my title. I could either go bigger or I could kind of split that margin between film, MiraCosta film, and there. So that's what I'll do. Select my title and just go down a little bit. All right, guys. I think for this poster, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Again, you're welcome to use any other techniques that we used in this class. I encourage you to. I want something that is artistic. I want something that's got a custom font that uses these templates, and something that you wouldn't be embarrassed to hang on the wall with your name on it. So again, do a good job with this. I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Make sure to fill in all of this information. I don't think you need to watch me do it in real time. So do a good job on these, and I look forward to seeing them in class.